Welcome back. We have with us the Brains Trust of Nomura India, Prabhat Awasthi, Sonal Verma and Neeraj Gambhir. Well, to resume our conversation, where is the rupee headed, Neeraj? Yesterday's exports were the lowest since April. Not by a whole lot, but still they were the lowest since April. They were a good 10% lower than the September numbers. Is rupee appreciation beginning to hit? And what do you think the Reserve Bank may do?
See, I think if you look at the overall BOP data, not just the trade data, clearly we're getting a tremendous amount of flows into the country, right? So overall BOP seems to be pretty positive. And it's Reserve Bank which is buying all the dollars from the market, right? So if you see the size of intervention that they've done over the last, let's say, 6 odd months, it's pretty large. So to me, I think it's not the market which is deciding where the rupee is, it's really the Reserve Bank's intervention style and their timing which is deciding where the rupee is. And clearly they don't seem to be wanting to see a meaningful appreciation in rupee. Whether it is driven by the trade competitiveness, it is a time of competitive devaluation, I would think, or whether it is driven by the concerns around hedging by the corporates. I think the bottom line here is that we are seeing a weaker rupee because Reserve Bank is intervening pretty actively and pretty aggressively, and that is determining where the currency is ultimately.
Prabhat, I was looking at some of the sectors you're overweight on, and interestingly you have entertainment in that space, so media stocks like Zee Entertainment, Dish TV, etc. What is the prospect for this sector, and is most of the run done, or do you think that there's lots more to go?
Well, I think I think earnings compounding sector is very strong and will continue to be strong while there has been some delay in the digitization process, but the fact is that it's an inevitability. And I think they also benefit from a recovery in economy because ad spends also are sort of discretionary in nature. So if you actually see a recovery, they can actually, stocks like Zee can do well. And they're great business models because, especially for Zee, for example, you've seen the company has sort of balance sheet has become completely fine over a period of time. So we think that earnings growth trajectory of media companies in India is underpinned not only by a recovery but also by a regulatory change which is not yet fully manifested in the earnings. And for a sector which is very large globally, India media sector is very small in terms of market cap still. That story doesn't always play out, but I think the stage we are in and the kind of changes we have seen in the regulatory environment, I think we should be all right. But as a small sector, as I said, cannot influence the market, but it can do well standalone over a period of time, yes.
Would you watch out for the divestment program? I mean, before I come to the fiscal deficit question to Sonal, you think there will be a rush of divestment candidates in the market? Would you have any preferences? Would you like the oil guys, for instance, or Coal India?
Well, I think this has to happen anyways because we are delayed, so there has to be a rush. I think a lot depends on what the government does over a period of time in terms of the reform process, which makes it more positive for foreign investors or investors who get into these sectors. So for example, what we've heard in papers on LPG, if that was to come through clearly, then ONGC does become more attractive because the long-term visibility on subsidy improves. Similarly, in Coal India, for example, if the coal reforms, for example, if production numbers that Mr. Goyal has been talking about, doubling production into them, if you get more granularity in that process, and I know that a lot of work is going on in coal ministry. If that happens, then so I think the issue about PSU, especially the large PSUs that we are talking about, are that they're not expensive. They're being cheap for a reason, and these reasons get better because you're getting more positive in governance. Then you start getting more positive. It'll be probably better for the government to get some clarity out in the market, for example, on subsidies on oil. This LPG thing, if it sort of becomes more clear, then I think there'll be more many takers for these stocks.
But already you would buy ONGC, or you would recommend buy on ONGC?
We have been positive on oil sector as such, including all oil PSUs. So that has been the main reason that the government is moving in the right direction.
Okay. Sonal, on fiscal deficit, do you think they'll better the target? You think there'll be a further crunch of planned spending because inflows are questionable at this point in time?
So FY15 actually is sort of a transition year for the fiscal finances. Unlike the last 2 years, so we again have a similar problem as the last couple of years, that we are running behind the target. But the difference from last few years is that this time revenues have lagged behind. Spending actually has moved broadly in line with the budgeted target. So the problem really is on the revenue side. Now, part of this is because the tax refunds lined up this year, close to 1,20,000 crore from, again, not paid from last year, have spilled over into this year. The non-payment of subsidies from last year has spilled over into this year, and growth is still sort of in the very, very early stages of the recovery. So the austerity that the government announced a month back will actually largely make up for the loss in tax revenues.
Okay.
And therefore, if the disinvestment target is not met, then additional round of expenditure cuts will have to be announced to get to the 4.1% target. I think the fiscal situation should look much better next year because the subsidy burden's coming down. Tax revenue should pick up next year. But this year, it will all boil down to what if they are able to manage the disinvestment target or not.
Okay. On that note, actually, the next big trigger from the market's point of view will be the winter session of the Parliament. Prabhat, what are you expecting in terms of the fine print of GST that could be announced, and what will make the markets happy?
Well, I think, first of all, the actual numbers on GST will probably be still some time coming, because we have heard all sorts of numbers there, 27, 23, etc., etc. But I think from what I understand, we are closer in terms of resolution of most of the pending issues, fundamental issues between states and center. So so GST is one, for example. I think, getting coal ordinance through is another one, because they have sort of done it through an ordinance route. They have to, maybe not in this session, they still have some more time. Land acquisition bill is another one, which is a very large one, I think even more important. So I think the visibility on some of the key reforms which have been impeding on the growth of investments will probably be key. I think I rate personally land acquisition as a more pressing issue. GST, they have said they will do it by 2016, so they still have time. And from what I understand, as I said, states are getting on board, so getting it passed is probably a matter of time. But yeah, I think the last session of the insurance bill, for example. So the last session of Parliament was a bit of an anticlimax, because what we heard was that at least in terms of getting two things passed, insurance bill was one of them, right? So insurance bill didn't get done. If you can get some of this stuff done, it will be very positive from a market perspective. They still don't have the numbers, so we'll have to see as to how they manage Rajya Sabha, etc., etc.
All of you would be having your finger on the pulse of not just Japanese investors but foreign investors in general. Japan is quite clearly on the verge of greater monetary stimulus, and going by what the ECB is saying, there is going to be more government bond buying as well, perhaps in that continent as well. How is the mood looking? We've seen a robust flow of FII money. Is the tap just going to stay that way or even get better?
Well, I think equities, the problem was the currency. So actually Japanese investors suffered a lot, because when they started coming around 2006, 2007. And well, I have a data point from one of the large distributors of funds in Japan that at peak, the Japanese investors put $12 billion in India, which went down to $4 billion early part of this year. And so there's a big upside from Japan. And as Neeraj said, after Prime Minister's visit, there was a fair amount of inflow which started coming into funds from Japan. So remember one thing, that there are a lot of funds which put money in India, which get inflow from Japanese retail, but they are not necessarily situated out of Japan. They are situated in Singapore, and they could be, European money managers who are getting Japanese money to invest in India. So that has started to happen. And I and Sonal were there in Japan about 3-4 months ago, I think, and we had a full house. I can tell you that the interest levels in Japan have risen tremendously, and they are looking at India more closely. And third thing, I think, is even in Japan there is a push to diversify the investment outwards. So like GPIF, the government is telling them to sort of diversify out. So that money, a couple of $1 billion expected to come into India from that loan in the next 18 months. So there is going to be much more, I think, into India going forward.
Actually, apart from the interest on the institutional investors side, I think one thing India is likely to benefit most is the FDI flows. One of the biggest concerns for most investors, especially the Japanese investors, has been ease of doing business. The processes are too lengthy. And now you're starting to see the government actually focus on ease of doing business. And Japan actually, if you look at Asia, has been an important player in terms of the entire supply assembly chain in Asia. And, they're looking to diversify away from, countries like China. A lot of the money has gone into the ASEAN economies, it's gone into Vietnam. And they're looking for new countries which offer growth, which offer, the economies of scale, and where the ease of doing business is easier. So I think apart from the, money on the institutional side, FDI, the stable money, which regulators will be more comfortable with, that's where India is likely to see a big increase. And if you club that with an environment where commodity prices are coming down, so your current account deficit is within 2% of GDP, then bulk of your current account deficit actually will be financed just through the stable FDI inflows. And that actually makes your macros quite stable.
All right, so one last question. Since we started with the lady, let's end with her. Do you expect to see at any point in time in the next 6 to 8 months a ratings upgrade? Is there anything in the macros that indicates that India is headed towards an upgrade?
Upgrades usually take time. I mean, if you've seen, Standard & Poor's has just put India on a neutral stance, stable outlook. So you would first need to see the outlook getting upgraded to positive before there's an actual upgrade. We are probably moving in that direction, but 6 to 8 months is too short a period of time. Rating agencies need to see growth picking up, per capita incomes actually starting to pick up, investment cycle turning around, potential growth turning around, continued reforms from the government. So India will stand out, but I think a bit too early for a rating upgrade in the next 6-8 months.
Prabhat, Sonal, Neeraj, thank you very much for joining us and for this very enriching, enlightening discussion
Thank you very
on
much.
CNBC TV 18.